The numbers on Rebecca's screen made no sense. She rubbed her tired eyes and looked again, but the calculations remained the same. After 3 sleepless nights, the elderly physicist finally accepted what her instruments were telling her. The impossible had happened in her laboratory. Tom Bradley walked into the research facility carrying a toolbox and wearing his usual grease-stained coveralls. The young engineer never bothered with formal clothes, even when visiting the most important physics lab on Earth. Rebecca watched him examine the strange device they had built together over the past 6 months. The machine looked nothing like the massive FTL drives used by other alien species. Instead of requiring an entire ship deck, their creation was barely the size of a refrigerator. No exotic crystals powered it, no dimensional anchors held it stable, and no complex computer systems guided its operation. Tom had built it using materials from a common hardware store and spare parts from old Earth satellites. "Still can't believe this thing works," Tom muttered, running his hands along the smooth metal surface. "When I first thought about folding space instead of punching through it, everyone said I was crazy." Rebecca nodded, remembering the countless rejected research proposals and dismissive comments from the scientific community. The Galactic Council had shared their advanced physics theories with humanity 50 years ago, but those theories all agreed on one thing. Faster-than-light travel required enormous amounts of energy and incredibly complex technology. Every known FTL drive in the galaxy followed the same basic principles. Humanity had tried to copy alien designs for decades. Their ships crawled between star systems at a fraction of the speed achieved by other species. Human engineers could barely manage short jumps that left crews exhausted and ships damaged. The galaxy's established civilizations viewed humanity as primitive newcomers who would need centuries to master proper space travel. The breakthrough came during Tom's 3rd year working on the project. Instead of trying to force ships through space-time, he wondered what would happen if they convinced space-time to cooperate. His early experiments with quantum field manipulation produced strange results that traditional physics could not explain. Rebecca supported Tom's unconventional approach when other scientists abandoned the project. She provided him with resources and protected his research from skeptical administrators. Their partnership combined his practical engineering skills with her theoretical knowledge, creating something neither could have achieved alone. The prototype's first test had been almost anticlimactic. Tom activated the device, and a small metal sphere simply vanished from the laboratory. Sophisticated tracking equipment confirmed the sphere had traveled 12 light-years in less than a second. When they brought it back, the sphere showed no signs of damage or stress from its journey. More tests followed with increasingly complex objects. Plants remained healthy after traveling hundreds of light-years. Electronic devices continued functioning perfectly after trips across the galaxy. Even living animals returned from their journeys without any harmful effects. Today's test would be different. Instead of sending objects through space, they planned to move an entire spacecraft with a human pilot inside. The volunteer crew had trained for months, though nobody really knew what to expect from the journey. Alex Rodriguez zipped up his flight suit and walked toward the experimental ship. The former military pilot had volunteered for dangerous missions before, but nothing compared to this. If their calculations were wrong, he might be scattered across half the galaxy in a few minutes. The ship itself reflected Tom's practical approach to engineering. Instead of the sleek designs favored by alien species, human engineers had built something that looked more like an industrial transport. Function mattered more than appearance, and every component had been tested extensively in smaller experiments. "Remember," Rebecca called out as Alex climbed into the pilot's seat, "the journey should feel completely normal from inside the ship. Our tests suggest you won't experience any unusual sensations during travel." Alex nodded and began running through his pre-flight checklist. The ship's systems were surprisingly simple compared to traditional FTL vessels. Most of the complicated technology had been replaced by Tom's elegant solution to the space-time problem. Representatives from 17 different alien species watched from the observation deck of the testing facility. The Galactic Council had agreed to witness humanity's demonstration, though most expected another embarrassing failure. Humans had attempted to showcase their technology before, usually with disappointing results. Ambassador Crix adjusted his 4 eyes to focus on the human ship. The Altani Collective had observed dozens of species attempt to develop FTL technology. Most took thousands of years to achieve even basic interstellar travel. Humans had been trying for only 50 years, far too short a time to accomplish anything. Significant. Initiating spacefold sequence, Alex announced over the radio. His voice remained calm despite the magnitude of what he was attempting. The ship's systems hummed quietly as Tom's device began manipulating the fabric of space-time around the vessel. The assembled alien dignitaries leaned forward, expecting to see the familiar light show that accompanied traditional FTL jumps. Instead, the human ship simply faded away like morning mist. No energy discharge lit up the testing area, no dimensional rifts tore open space, and no exotic particles registered on their sophisticated sensors. Silence filled the observation deck as the aliens tried to process what they had witnessed. According to their instruments, the ship had not actually moved. Every physics theory they understood said the demonstration was impossible. 47 light-years away, automated monitoring stations detected the sudden appearance of a human vessel. The ship materialized in normal space without any of the usual signs associated with FTL arrival. Sensors confirmed the vessel's identity and transmitted the data back to the testing facility. Alex's voice crackled over the long-range communication system 15 minutes later. Journey completed successfully. All systems functioning normally. Ready to return home. The return trip took another 15 minutes. When the ship rematerialized in the testing area, Alex emerged with a huge smile on his face. The journey that should have taken months using conventional FTL technology had been completed in half an hour. Rebecca looked around the observation deck and saw expressions of shock on every alien face. What humans had just demonstrated would change everything about galactic civilization. The implications were staggering, and she suspected the real consequences were only beginning. Panic spread through the Galactic Council chambers like wildfire. Emergency meetings had been called on 3 separate occasions since humanity's demonstration 2 days ago, and each session grew more heated than the last. Representatives who normally spent decades debating minor trade agreements were now shouting at each other across the assembly floor. Counselor Vash slammed her crystalline appendage against her desk, creating a sound like breaking glass. Her entire form pulsed with angry red light as she addressed the chamber. We cannot pretend this changes nothing. Humans have achieved in 50 years what took our civilization 2,000 years to accomplish. The hegemony's representative, Counselor Denth, spoke with barely controlled fear in his voice. Worse than that. Their technology is completely different from ours. We understand nothing about how it works. Alex Rodriguez sat quietly in the witness chair, still wearing his simple flight suit from the demonstration. The human pilot had agreed to answer questions about his experience, though he suspected the aliens would not like what he had to tell them. Describe the journey from your perspective, demanded Ambassador Crix, his 4 eyes focused intently on the human. Alex shrugged, trying to appear casual despite the tension in the room. Felt like a normal flight. I activated the system, waited 15 minutes, then arrived at the destination. No strange sensations, no discomfort, nothing unusual at all. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the assembly. Every known method of FTL travel subjected crews to severe physical stress. Pilots required extensive training and medical support to survive even short jumps. Many species could only attempt FTL travel a few times per year without risking permanent damage to their crews. Supreme Arbiter Nala leaned forward from her elevated position. 15 minutes to travel 47 light-years. Our fastest ships require 6 months for the same journey, and the crews need weeks of recovery time afterward. Maya Patel stepped up to the presentation area, carrying a portable display unit. The chief engineer's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the agitated aliens surrounding her. She had volunteered to explain the technical details, though she doubted the council would appreciate the full implications. "Our approach is fundamentally different," Maya began, activating her holographic display. "Traditional FTL drives create dimensional rifts and force ships through higher dimensions. This requires massive amounts of energy and puts tremendous stress on both vessels and crews." The display showed a simplified diagram of human FTL technology. Instead of the complex machinery used by other species, the human system appeared almost elegant in its simplicity. A few key components worked together to manipulate space-time in ways that seemed impossible according to established physics. "We don't force our way through space," Maya continued. "Instead, we convince space to fold around our ships. The universe does most of the work for us." Counselor Brick stood up suddenly, his large form towering over the other representatives. "What materials does your drive require? Surely such advanced technology needs rare elements or exotic matter." Maya smiled slightly, knowing her answer would cause even more concern. "Standard metals available on any industrialized world. The most expensive component costs about 50,000 Earth credits." The number meant nothing to most aliens, but those familiar with human economics quickly performed the conversion. 50,000 credits would barely buy a shuttle's navigation system using traditional technology. Humans were building FTL drives for less than most species spent on basic life support equipment. "Energy requirements?" asked Ambassador Crix, though his voice suggested he already suspected the answer would be disturbing. "Less than our ships use for standard life support," Maya replied. "The folding process requires very little power input once we initiate the space-time manipulation." The implications hit the council like a physical blow. Not only had humans developed superior FTL technology, but they had done so using common materials and minimal energy requirements. Any human colony could potentially build these drives using locally available resources. Supreme Arbiter Nala called for a brief recess, but the damage was already done. Representatives huddled in small groups, speaking in worried whispers about what humanity's breakthrough meant for galactic civilization. During the break, David Park maintained his position near the Altani delegation. The human intelligence operative had spent years establishing his cover identity as a minor diplomatic aide. Now he listened carefully as alien officials discussed their response to humanity's demonstration. "They could build thousands of these ships," one Altani officer whispered to his colleague. "Our intelligence reports suggest humans have industrial capacity far beyond what we previously estimated." The colleague nodded grimly. "If they can move fleets instantly across the galaxy, every strategic doctrine we've developed becomes worthless." David filed the information away while maintaining his outward appearance of bored indifference. Similar conversations were taking place throughout the chamber as species representatives tried to grasp the full scope of the threat humanity now posed. When the session resumed, Rebecca Hayes took her place at the presentation podium. The elderly physicist had requested permission to make a final statement before the council voted on how to respond to humanity's demonstration. "Honorable representatives," Rebecca began, "we hoped our breakthrough would demonstrate humanity's value as a member of the galactic community. We never intended to cause fear or concern among our neighbors." Her words seemed sincere, but several aliens noticed she had not offered to share the technology or limit its development. The absence of such offers spoke volumes about human intentions. "We understand your concerns about rapid technological change," Rebecca continued. "However, we believe our innovation can benefit all species through improved transportation and communication across the galaxy." Ambassador Crix interrupted with barely concealed hostility. "Benefit? Or give humanity overwhelming military superiority over every other civilization?" Rebecca's expression remained neutral, but her next words sent chills through the assembled delegates. "I suppose that depends on how our neighbors choose to respond to our achievements." The session ended with no formal decisions, but the message was clear. Humanity would continue developing their FTL technology regardless of council concerns. The only question remaining was whether other species would accept this new reality or attempt to prevent humanity's continued advancement. As representatives filed out of the chamber, secret communications began flowing between various species. Homeworlds. Military leaders and government officials across the galaxy would soon be discussing options for dealing with the human threat. The age of peaceful coexistence was rapidly coming to an end. War had shaped galactic civilization for over 3,000 years. Every species in the Galactic Council understood the delicate balance that maintained peace across the galaxy. Now that balance teetered on the edge of collapse, and the cause was humanity's impossible technology. Fleet Admiral Koreth pulled up strategic displays in the Council's secure military briefing room. The Valdari officer had commanded defensive operations for 2 centuries, but nothing in his experience prepared him for the current situation. Traditional military doctrine assumed certain limitations on enemy movement and deployment. Humans had just eliminated those limitations entirely. "Show them the projections," Supreme Arbiter Nala ordered, her voice heavy with exhaustion. The past week of emergency sessions had taken their toll on even the Council's most experienced leaders. The holographic display filled the center of the room with a 3-dimensional map of known space. Red indicators marked major military installations, fortress worlds, and strategic choke points that had defined galactic defense for millennia. Green lines showed traditional FTL routes between star systems, creating a web of predictable movement patterns. "Our entire defensive strategy relies on early warning systems," Admiral Koreth explained to the assembled military leaders. "We monitor known FTL routes and maintain rapid response fleets at key positions. Enemy forces cannot appear without giving us time to react." The display shifted, showing human ships moving across the map. Unlike the green lines that marked traditional FTL routes, human vessels moved in straight lines directly between any 2 points. They ignored the carefully plotted hyperspace lanes and appeared instantly at their destinations. "Humans make our defenses meaningless," Koreth continued. "They can strike anywhere in the galaxy without warning and retreat before we can respond. Our fortress worlds become isolated targets instead of strategic strongpoints." Counselor Denth studied the projections with growing horror. "What about our early warning networks? Surely we can detect their ships before they attack." Admiral Koreth shook his head. "Their drives produce no detectable emissions during travel. The first sign of their presence is when ships materialize in normal space. By then, any attack would already be underway." The military implications were staggering. Every species maintained defensive fleets positioned to intercept enemies approaching along known FTL routes. Those fleets would be useless against enemies who could appear anywhere without following predictable paths. Ambassador Crix raised another concern that had been troubling military planners. "What prevents them from attacking our homeworlds directly? Most of our planets are defended against threats coming from space, not enemies who can appear in orbit without warning." The question hung in the air because nobody had a good answer. Planetary defenses assumed attackers would have to fight through outer system patrols and orbital fortifications. Humans could bypass all of those defenses and appear directly above populated worlds. "There's worse news," Admiral Koreth admitted reluctantly. "Our intelligence sources suggest humans have been building ships in secret for months. The demonstration we witnessed may have been only a small sample of their actual capabilities." Supreme Arbiter Nala accessed classified reports from various intelligence agencies. The information painted a disturbing picture of human activities across their territory. Shipyards that had been building civilian vessels were suddenly producing military designs. Manufacturing facilities were working around the clock to produce unknown equipment. Most ominously, human colonies had been requesting massive quantities of materials with no explanation for their intended use. "How many ships do they have?" Counselor Vash demanded, her crystalline form pulsing with agitation. "Unknown," Koreth replied. But conservative estimates suggest they could field several hundred FTL-capable vessels within the next few months. If they continue production at current rates, they might have thousands of ships by next year. The numbers sent a chill through the assembled leaders. The largest military fleet in Council space consisted of fewer than 500 ships, and those vessels were scattered across dozens of star systems. Humans might soon possess the largest navy in galactic history. Counselor Brix brought up another troubling issue. We've been analyzing their technology, trying to understand how it works. Our scientists have made no progress whatsoever. The admission revealed the depth of the Council's predicament. Alien civilizations had reverse-engineered each other's technology for thousands of years. Military advantages rarely lasted long, because defeated enemies could study captured equipment and develop countermeasures. Human technology seemed immune to such analysis. It's as if they're using completely different physics, Brix continued. Our instruments can measure what their drives do, but we cannot determine how they do it. Without understanding the principles involved, we cannot develop defenses or countermeasures. David Park listened to the discussion from his position near the Altani delegation. The human intelligence operative had been reporting on council activities for months, but the current emergency session provided the most valuable information yet. His hidden transmitter sent coded updates to human intelligence agencies, keeping Earth informed about alien fears and military planning. Admiral Koreth activated another display showing historical military campaigns. The last major war ended 800 years ago when the Tiraki expansion was finally contained. That conflict lasted 2 centuries because the Tiraki could only advance system by system along known FTL routes. The historical examples illustrated how galactic warfare had always followed predictable patterns. Aggressive species might conquer nearby systems, but their expansion was limited by the time and energy required for FTL travel. Defenders could always predict enemy movements and concentrate forces at strategic points. Humans change everything, Koreth concluded. They can attack anywhere, anytime, without warning. Traditional defensive strategies become suicide missions against an enemy who can appear behind our lines without notice. The briefing continued with increasingly pessimistic assessments of various defensive scenarios. Every simulation ended with the same conclusion. In a direct military confrontation, human FTL technology would provide overwhelming advantages that existing forces could not counter. Supreme Arbiter Nala finally addressed the question everyone was thinking, but nobody wanted to voice. Are we discussing defensive measures, or should we consider preemptive action while humans are still building their fleet? The suggestion sent shocked murmurs through the room. The Galactic Council had not authorized aggressive military action in over 3 centuries. Most species viewed such measures as violations of fundamental principles that held galactic civilization together. We have perhaps 6 months before human naval capacity exceeds our ability to respond effectively, Admiral Koreth estimated. After that point, any military action becomes extremely risky. Ambassador Crix spoke what many representatives were thinking. If we wait for humans to complete their fleet buildup, we may never get another chance to maintain the balance of power in galactic space. The meeting ended with no formal decisions, but private conversations between military leaders continued, long into the night. Across the galaxy, defensive fleets began receiving new orders that prepared them for potential offensive operations. The age of peace was ending, and nobody knew what would replace it. Intelligence flowed through hidden channels faster than official diplomatic communications. While the Galactic Council debated humanity's fate in their chambers, human operatives embedded throughout alien civilization transmitted coded warnings back to Earth. The message was clear and urgent. Prepare for war. Admiral Lisa Hayes stood in the command center of humanity's newest military facility, hidden in an asteroid field beyond the edge of known space. Banks of monitoring equipment displayed real-time intelligence from dozens of sources throughout Council territory. Her sister Rebecca's scientific breakthrough had created this moment, but Lisa would determine how it ended. Council fleets are moving, reported Commander Kim from her position at the intelligence station. 17 different species have repositioned their naval assets closer to human space. They're trying to look like routine exercises, but the pattern is obvious. Lisa nodded, studying the tactical displays that showed alien fleet movements. For months, human intelligence had been tracking Council military activities and preparing for this exact scenario. The aliens thought they were being subtle, but their intentions were painfully obvious to anyone paying attention. Agent David Park's latest report appeared on her personal screen. The embedded operative continued providing valuable intelligence about Council discussions, including transcripts of the military briefing that had taken place 2 days earlier. Lisa read through the documents with growing concern and grim satisfaction. "They're more afraid than we expected," Lisa told her staff. "But that also makes them more dangerous. Scared enemies do unpredictable things." The reports confirmed what human analysts had suspected for weeks. Several alien species were seriously considering preemptive military action against human colonies. The window for peaceful coexistence was closing rapidly, and humanity needed to be ready for what came next. General Marcus Webb reviewed defensive preparations from his position at the strategic planning table. Unlike his colleagues, the former Army officer had always believed this day would come. Alien civilizations had tolerated humanity as harmless primitives, but they would never accept humans as equals or superiors. Colony evacuation plans are ready, Webb reported. We can relocate our entire civilian population within 72 hours if necessary. The new FTL drives make it possible to move entire settlements faster than traditional ships can cross a single star system. Lisa appreciated the irony. The same technology that terrified the Council also provided humanity with unprecedented flexibility in protecting their people. Human colonies could be relocated to completely different regions of the galaxy before alien forces could even reach their original positions. Dr. Emily Ross approached from the research section carrying a tablet filled with technical specifications. The quantum physicist had been working on military applications of FTL technology since the original breakthrough. Her innovations would soon prove even more revolutionary than humanity's basic space-folding drive. "The interdiction field generators are ready for deployment," Emily announced. "We can now prevent other species from using traditional FTL drives within designated areas." Lisa looked up with interest. This development had been classified at the highest levels, known only to a small group of military leaders and scientists. If the technology worked as designed, it would provide humanity with an ultimate defensive advantage. "Range and effectiveness?" Lisa asked. Emily consulted her tablet before responding. "We can create interdiction zones covering entire star systems. Any ship attempting to open a dimensional rift within the affected area will experience cascade failures in their FTL drives. The effect is permanent until we shut down the generators." The implications were staggering. Humanity could not only move their own forces instantly across the galaxy, but they could also prevent enemy fleets from using FTL travel in strategic areas. It would be like removing bridges while retaining the ability to fly over rivers. "Commander," Kim interrupted with an urgent update. "Admiral, we're receiving reports of increased military production throughout Council space. At least 6 species have converted civilian manufacturing to military purposes." Lisa had been expecting this development, but seeing it confirmed still sent a chill down her spine. The aliens were preparing for full-scale war, and humanity had perhaps weeks before hostilities began. "Signal all department heads," Lisa ordered. "Operation Exodus begins immediately." The command center erupted into controlled activity as officers began implementing plans that had been developed over months of secret preparation. Across human space, military and civilian leaders received coded instructions that would fundamentally alter humanity's position in galactic civilization. Phase 1 involved relocating critical infrastructure beyond the reach of potential attackers. Human colonies, research facilities, and industrial complexes began disappearing from their known locations. The FTL drives that had demonstrated humanity's advancement would now protect their civilization from retaliation. Tom Bradley monitored the evacuation process from his position aboard the transport vessel Liberty. The engineer who had created humanity's FTL breakthrough now watched entire cities being relocated to distant star systems. His innovation had given humans the power to reshape galactic civilization, but it had also made them targets for alien fear. Incredible, Tom muttered as he watched a complete orbital manufacturing complex fold space around itself and vanish. 6 months ago, moving a paperclip 12 light-years was a breakthrough. Now we're relocating entire civilizations. The evacuations proceeded faster than anyone had thought possible. Human settlements that had taken decades to build were being moved intact to new locations thousands of light-years away. By the time Council fleets reached human space, they would find empty star systems and abandoned colonies. Admiral Lisa Hayes received regular updates on the operation's progress. Phase 1 would be complete within 48 hours, well ahead of schedule. Phase 2 would test whether humanity could transition from defensive evacuation to strategic offense. Dr. Ross approached with another tablet, this one containing intelligence reports from various alien sources. "The Council has authorized military action," she reported grimly. "Multiple species are coordinating their response for maximum effectiveness." Lisa had hoped for more time, but the situation was developing faster than anticipated. The aliens had overcome their usual bureaucratic delays and were preparing to strike before humanity could complete their defensive preparations. "How long? Until they're ready to attack?" Lisa asked. Emily consulted the intelligence summaries. "Conservative estimate suggests they'll begin military operations within 1 week. Several species are already positioning forces for coordinated strikes on known human colonies." Lisa nodded and activated the communication system that connected her to military commanders throughout human space. The next phase of Operation Exodus would determine whether humanity could successfully defend themselves against a coordinated alien assault. "All units, this is Admiral Hayes," Lisa announced. "The Council has chosen war over diplomacy. Phase 2 is now authorized. Show them what humanity is truly capable of." Across human space, military commanders received orders that would demonstrate the full extent of their technological advantages. The aliens thought they understood what they were fighting, but they were about to discover that humanity had been holding back their most revolutionary capabilities. Reality shifted across the galaxy in ways that defied every law of physics the Council thought they understood. Within 12 hours, human civilization simply vanished from known space, leaving behind empty star systems and abandoned colonies. Council fleets arriving to begin their coordinated assault found nothing but vacant orbital installations and mysterious energy readings their instruments could not identify. Fleet Admiral Koreth stared at his tactical display in complete bewilderment. The Valdari officer commanded the largest military force in Council history, with over 200 ships from 17 different species united in common cause. Their target had been the human industrial complex at Wolf 359, a system that should have contained millions of civilians and extensive manufacturing facilities. Instead, they found empty space where a thriving colony had existed just days before. Sensors detected no debris fields, no signs of destruction, and no evidence of evacuation. The entire human presence had simply disappeared as if it had never existed. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving similar reports. From all task forces, every human settlement we've reached has been completely abandoned." Koreth tried to process the implications of what his forces were discovering. Moving military equipment was challenging but possible given enough time and resources. Relocating entire civilian populations required massive logistical support that should have taken months to coordinate. Humanity had somehow evacuated their complete civilization in less than 3 days. The first indication of humanity's true capabilities came when Admiral Koreth's fleet attempted to pursue the evacuation routes. Every ship that activated their FTL drives experienced immediate system failures that left them stranded in normal space. Engineering teams worked frantically to repair the damage, but their dimensional drive systems had suffered complete cascade failures. "What's causing the drive failures?" Koreth demanded from his chief engineer. The Valdari technician looked up from his diagnostic equipment with confusion and fear. "Unknown, sir. The quantum matrices are completely destabilized, but we can't identify any external interference. It's as if space itself is preventing FTL travel." Similar reports flooded in from Council fleets throughout the galaxy. Hundreds of ships found themselves trapped in normal space, unable to return home or continue their mission. The mysterious phenomenon seemed to affect all known FTL technologies while leaving conventional propulsion systems untouched. Supreme Arbiter Nala received the disturbing reports from her command center on the Council's primary station. The coordinated assault on human space had transformed into a disaster that threatened the stability of galactic civilization itself. Military forces were stranded throughout known space, and nobody understood what was causing their equipment failures. "How many ships are affected?" Nala asked her military advisors. Admiral Koreth's voice crackled through the long-range communication system. "At least 300 vessels from all participating species. We're completely unable to use FTL drives in any system previously occupied by humans." The scope of the problem became clear as more reports arrived. Human territories had become dead zones for conventional FTL travel, creating massive barriers that divided the galaxy into isolated regions. Species that had maintained contact for thousands of years found themselves cut off from each other by impenetrable interdiction fields. Then humanity announced their new position. Admiral Lisa Hayes appeared on every communication frequency simultaneously, her image transmitted across the galaxy with technology that shouldn't have been possible. Council scientists had always believed galaxy-wide broadcasts required massive relay networks, but humans were somehow reaching every inhabited system directly. "Citizens of the galaxy," Lisa began, her voice calm despite the magnitude of what she was about to reveal. "Recent events have made it clear that humanity's technological advancement has caused fear among our neighbors. We regret that peaceful coexistence has become impossible." The transmission continued with displays showing star charts that shocked every observer. Vast regions of previously unexplored space now glowed with human territorial markers. Systems that the Council had considered unreachable due to distance and energy costs were suddenly within humanity's sphere of influence. "We have established our new civilization in the Outer Rim," Lisa announced. "Over 20,000 star systems now serve as the foundation for human expansion. We withdrew from Council space to avoid conflict, but we will defend our new territories against any aggression." The numbers were staggering. Humanity had claimed more territory in a few days than most species controlled after millennia of expansion. The Outer Rim had been ignored by other civilizations because conventional FTL travel made those regions too expensive and time-consuming to develop. Counselor Vash spoke for many aliens when she transmitted a desperate question. "How is this possible? Those systems are thousands of light years from your previous colonies." Lisa's response revealed the true extent of human capabilities. "Our FTL technology allows us to travel anywhere in the galaxy within hours. Distance is no longer a meaningful limitation for human expansion." The demonstration that followed would be remembered as the moment galactic civilization entered a new age. Human fleets materialized around every major Council installation simultaneously, their arrival undetected until ships appeared in normal space. The vessels remained for exactly 60 seconds with weapons powered down, but their message was unmistakably clear. "We could reach any location in Council space within minutes," Lisa continued her broadcast. "However, we prefer isolation to conquest. As long as our territories remain unmolested, we have no interest in interfering with Council affairs." Admiral Koreth watched human ships fade away as mysteriously as they had appeared. His stranded fleet remained trapped by the interdiction fields, but the human demonstration had proven they could strike anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Traditional military doctrine had become completely obsolete. The broadcast concluded with an offer that shocked the Council's leadership. We are prepared to share limited FTL technology with species that recognize our territorial claims and agree to peaceful coexistence. However, any military action against human interests will result in the complete interdiction of that species' FTL capabilities. Supreme Arbiter Nala realized that humanity had just redefined the balance of power in galactic civilization. They possessed technology that could isolate entire species while maintaining their own freedom of movement. The threat was subtle but absolute. Cooperate or face technological exile from the galactic community. Over the following weeks, human settlements began appearing throughout the Outer Rim with impossible speed. Entire cities materialized in systems that had been empty the day before. Industrial complexes came online months ahead of schedule, producing goods and technology that other species couldn't even understand. Ambassador Crix submitted his final report on humanity's transformation with deep concern for the future. "They have become something beyond our understanding," he wrote. "Humanity now possesses capabilities that make them effectively uncontrollable by any external force." The Galactic Council faced a new reality. Humanity had evolved beyond the reach of traditional politics and military power. They had become a civilization that existed parallel to the established order, influenced by it, but not subject to its control. As human expansion continued throughout the Outer Rim, other species began to understand that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The age of limited FTL travel was ending, replaced by an era where distance meant nothing and conventional strategic thinking had become worthless. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through force of arms. Instead, they had simply outgrown the limitations that had defined galactic civilization for thousands of years. The Council would adapt to this new reality or find themselves increasingly irrelevant in a universe where humans could appear anywhere, anytime, with capabilities that bordered on the miraculous.